This episode is sponsored in part by PTZOptics. Why hire a camera operator when the control is in your hands? Visit PTZOptics.com for more information. And by NewTek, makers of the TriCaster TC1. Stun your viewers, not your accountant. Visit newtek.com for more information.
Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Salt Talk. And we've got a good show for you here today, but I want to do a little bit of housekeeping really quick. This month, PTZOptics, we have, counting this show, we have 3 shows. We have one next week. I believe it is on a Thursday. It's Wednesday or Thursday. They usually do it. A special show that they're going to be doing. They're also, Paul and Tess and crew, they're also going to be doing one on the 30th on our brand new Link 4K. If you are a Dante user, or you want to know what Dante is and what the Link 4K camera is, you definitely want to tune in. And I believe that's on the 30th at 2 p.m. Most of their shows are at 2 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you guys check that out. If you haven't watched any of the shows, it's always a good time. We've got, as always, my co-host, my partner in crime, Mr. Greg Terry. Welcome.
Good morning, Stephen. Nice to be here as always. Thanks to everyone for jumping in. Today's episode is going to be really good, talking about, I think, what is a missing ingredient in houses of worship, ministry, how we can be more effective. Of course, we want to reach more people. And today we're going to be talking about some ways that media, technology, streaming, special services, events can help do that. So glad that you're here. Going to be a good time. Going to be real good.
Yeah, it's something that I was telling Greg, I had the privilege. My sister-in-law got married down in Tennessee, and Greg, the funny thing was, all I'd seen was pictures of this church. It's in the middle of the country. It's in the middle of nowhere, actually. Like, you literally are on backcountry roads for miles. And when I say miles, like half an hour to get to this place. And no internet, and the internet that he did have was very spotty. But I had the privilege of doing this, and she just wanted a camera set up in the back or an iPhone and just record the service. And I'm like, 10 years from now, you're going to kick me if I do something like that, because my name is on this. And the family knows I do video, and they're going to sit there, they're going to go, wait, he does video and this is what he's doing? Like, that just makes no sense. So we were able to incorporate the PTZOptics cameras, sit in a back room, my daughter and I, and basically switch a whole service, get shots that they couldn't even see. I mean, you've done weddings. I've done weddings where you just see the back of the heads of the bride and groom. You never see their faces during the preaching, the communion, the ceremony, things like that. So that was kind of what prompted this. And I know you guys have had some experiences doing funerals, right?
Yes, we do lots of weddings, lots of funerals. Additionally, we have a larger church, so we are also doing special events, such as we have a drug and rehab ministry, and they have graduations when the people that are in the program make it through for their year program. We stream the graduations. So yeah, we are big on the special events. Big. It's a focus.
So I think if you're out there, you're a house of worship, and you're not sure if you should even focus on this, you really should. You should put this in the back burner, because you just never know if you're going to need it. And so we're not just going to talk about it. Like, I actually have some visuals here that we're going to show here. So let's just walk through. I did a quick walkthrough here. I've got the PTZ cameras right on the corners of the post there. They're 12Xs. And then I've got 20Xs in the back of the church, kind of hidden behind some flowers and things. But here is this back room here where they just throw a whole mess of junk. I set up a little table, brought my own table, and LiveView Solo Pro with for the internet. I've got the YOLO box, and that's my monitor for my SuperJoy, using Wirecast on a MacBook Pro because I only have a Mac laptop. So being able to do that, my daughter and I did this, and I'll kind of do a shot of it so you guys can see without it jumping around. You can actually see what it looked like, the setup. So this was actually the setup here. I'm gonna kind of see if I can't zoom that in a little bit. But you can see my daughter, she's been very interested in doing the live streaming portion of this and learning it and taking it in school. So this is wedding day. We had this set up, and I kind of sat on the left. She was doing all the switching inside of Wirecast, and we used the X keys, which was very delayed in Wirecast. I don't know if it's an issue with Wirecast, but that's for another story. So I sat there just pulling up, the wedding was delayed because there was a huge storm that came through. So Greg, this leads me to my little thing about your internet, and I'll let you talk about your internet real quick.
All right, let's.
So we pulled up the stream on the iPad, my iPad Pro, so we could kind of monitor what the audience was seeing and if there's comments and things like that. So I basically sat there, set up presets using the SuperJoy, because it's so awesome, because I got groups. I got a group 1 for my studio. I've got group 2 for on the road. So I just literally changed the IP address in the SuperJoy, take it out on the road, I'm good to go. And then the YOLO box was my monitor, if you will. So we fed everything out of the Wirecast audio and video into the LiveView Solo Pro, and then on the right side of the MacBook Pro, there's a Thunderbolt 4 or USB-C. I had a DJI microphone, wireless microphone transmitter. So what I did was, you guys have seen it, Greg. I think you have a Rode one, right, where you just kind of flip it on your. They have a line input on that, so you could hook up a lavalier mic to it if you wanted to, instead of having like the big box on your collar or whatnot. So I gave it to the DJ and I said, hey, feed your headphone feed into this wireless transmitter. Just set it right there next to you. That way I can receive the direct signal from his mixer for the pastor's microphone. So I didn't even have to put a secondary microphone on the pastor. And then I took my second one and just laid it on a windowsill to get that ambient noise of the congregation as people were like kind of, sitting there chatting before the ceremony. And just getting that noise, like I didn't want that studio feel for a wedding, right? You want that ambient noise. So that was pretty much our setup. I went in there blind, and before I show the wedding, we'll talk about this bandwidth, because this is something you really need to think about. And Greg just told me right before the show that he's testing out some new internet. So go ahead and talk about that, and I'll tell you why you may not want to do that.
Well, yesterday, my disciple, this is a house of worship.
Is that what you're calling him?
Yeah, my disciple. No, the kid I've been training for leading worship and ministry since he was 12 years old. He's now 32, so 31, 20-year relationship. He came to me yesterday and goes, PG, I think I'm going to go and switch my cell phone provider to Verizon, where we live in Western Pennsylvania. I said, okay, I'll ride down there with you. And he's a pretty smart fella. And he actually works for a rural broadband internet company, so he's got some experience in this. So we go down to Verizon, he's talking to them, then he goes, well, let's go to T-Mobile and talk to them and get some quotes and da-da-da-da. Well, I'm a T-Mobile customer because I travel a lot internationally, and it works great for me being able to use the international travel pass. If I want to stream, I've got high-speed data in the middle of the Serengeti in Tanzania. But we're sitting there and we start talking to T-Mobile, and they go, you ought to try out the home internet, because there's only going to be a certain amount released for the 5G ultra wideband. And in your area, you'd be one of the first ones getting it. And you can do a 14-day trial, no money. If you don't like it, just bring it back to us. You're an existing customer. So I said, I'll try it. I said, what speeds can I expect? They said between 500, 600, 700 down and 50 to 100 up, locked. Well, I brought it home. I'm 100% getting those speeds. I disconnected my cable from Spectrum, and I literally set the T-Mobile modem on a window, plugged in my switch, My entire studio is smoking. I'm streaming to you right now through the T-Mobile, and I'm going to be testing it tonight on my live stream. Last night, I was doing some testing. My son was gaming. My wife was watching television. So it's working. Now, whether I stay that way or not, I think that's the direction you're going, Stephen. If we're going to stream and do special events that are off campus, meaning you're not in your church where you've got your good internet, maybe you're out at the lake doing a baptism. We actually have a volunteer appreciation event at our church coming up the first Sunday in September. We're going to have probably 300, 350 volunteers out there. We want to stream it. So I'm actually going to be using the YOLO box. And now I can take this T-Mobile, plug it in, set it right on the ground beside me. Yes, my internet's then at home is gone, but my family's with me. But we're talking $50 a month for this. So I'm exploring it. This weekend, I'm traveling. I'm speaking down in Virginia. I'm staying in a place on top of a mountain where there's only cellular coverage. There is no broadband out there. I'm actually taking it with me. Going to test it this weekend. So maybe it was meant to be, Stephen, with the episode we're doing about special services and the need for broadband internet and mobile setups many times to do special services that are away from campus, that I happen to flip the switch and try this T-Mobile this weekend.
Yeah, and by no means am I telling you not to do this. I'm just giving you something else to chew on based on an experience that I had down here in the mountains of Tennessee. So just for anybody that's wondering whereabouts in Tennessee that this was on the eastern side, and I'll have to get you the name of it here in a little bit. But
what's mountainous? If you're eastern, you're on the you're on the western side of the Smoky Mountains.
It's in Kingston,
in
Tennessee.
Kingston.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Kingston, Tennessee, if you're familiar with it, if you want to look it up on a map, it's pretty mountainous. So the church is actually on the top of the mountain, which, a mountain/hill. So like you're on top of the mountain, and then you go up a hill, and then the church is on top of a hill. It's kind of like very storybookish, like you're on top of the hill, So I figured, listen, man, I'm as close to God as you possibly can get. Like I shouldn't have any problems with it. Now, I want you to notice on this picture where the Live View Solo is, I had to put this thing. So I preface this by saying we had a huge storm come through. Like my countdown was going a half an hour prior because I was doing testing with getting presets set up and everything like that with the camera. So anybody that was coming in was watching me zoom in the camera and set presets. So getting the speeds right so they weren't like flying in on zooms and whatnot. But about 10 minutes before the service was supposed to start, it stormed. And when I say it stormed, like the gutters couldn't keep up. It looked like it was just overflowing and buckets were pouring down. Like I had never seen rain that hard. Thunder and lightning, and the thunder, one lightning bolt hit, we lost internet, which you would expect. The lights flickered. You know what I mean? You'd expect that. But while that storm was going on, I had slow could be cellular network to the point of it felt like I was on 1G. Like I couldn't even load a page. I couldn't log in. Things were erroring out. And my daughter's like checking her phone because I'm thinking, well, maybe it's my phone, right? Like I'm checking it. The Live View showed that it was streaming, but it wasn't streaming. I wasn't receiving it on Switchboard, that's where I was in the cloud distributing it. And I'm sitting there going, what is going on? As soon as the storm passed, everything reconnected. It was like instantaneous. It like the 5G started working again. So I don't know if it was the storm's electromagnetic pull that was affecting something in the atmosphere for that 5G, 5GE or whatever that we were getting. That's the first time I've ever experienced that. Like, I mean, we get storms here in Western PA, Eastern Ohio all the time. I've never had that. I don't know if it's a rural thing, and that's why I'm curious. You're going down to Virginia. I think you're in kind of like a rural area.
I'm going to be testing in a very rural area, but isn't that something we always take a risk of when you are whether streaming or I remember it's probably a month ago, Stephen,
Mm-hmm.
you actually canceled all of your streams one night because of the storms coming in. That's in your studio at your place because you were concerned about maybe electrical damage because we were expecting really big ones.
Really big ones.
Okay,
We were
so,
fortunate. We made it through.
But the point being is the storms affected you that day and you were connected.
It was connected hardline, yeah.
Correct. You just chose not to stream. So isn't weather always going to be a variable is my question.
100%. And that's the other thing with having this as on a laptop.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is battery powered except for the cameras. So I left everything. I left the cameras and probably shouldn't have, but I left the switch plugged in. But I unplugged the computer. I unplugged the YOLO box, the live view. Everything was running off of power or battery power for at least 20 minutes. Then once the storm passed, you can see out the window there. The sun's coming back out on that picture. I plugged everything back in, and we were back with 8 minutes to spare. Now, because of that storm, it delayed the wedding by 15 minutes because obviously it was raining so hard. They didn't want the bride's dress to drag through the water. They didn't want the bridesmaids. So they literally delayed the wedding by 15 minutes. Everybody expected it. People were running and moving, checking their cars because it was hot. It was like 96, 97 degrees down there. It was.
Do you remember the name of the church?
Hot. I would have to look off the top of my head. I don't know what it is off the cuff.
Okay.
But I could tell you the resort and stuff where it was at in a little bit. But
yeah,
I was
on the Clinch River.
Yeah, it was very interesting, to say the least. All right, so I've got some footage here. Obviously, we're not going to play the whole thing because but I want to just kind of show like some different clips and see how clear everything looks. Right here, this is before the service. I'm getting shots dialed in so that way I can, get it. And one of the biggest things they told me after they saw this, if they would have known that I could control this, they would have told the photographer, and they had a videographer who's going to do like a 2-minute. I don't even know what he's going to do, but it's like a 2-minute thing.
Summary. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They would have told him not to because all they did was walk around. And I even told him nicely, like there's a couple times where he's like in my shot and we had to quickly get off of it. But you could see right there, like up on stage, I'm not even bothering anybody. I'm literally just trying to get some shots set for the like right here, the photographer. Let me see, right there. She's like in the way of everybody, So we're trying to get around all that. But for the most part, as people started coming down, there's the pastor. As people started coming down, we got really good shots of this. As they're going to be seated. These are shots that, sitting where you're sitting, you're not going to get these types of shots. And I went in this blind. I had no idea what the church looked like. Had no idea where I was going to be setting up. And
have you ever shot a wedding before?
I've done a wedding with 2 camcorders like years ago, but I've never done
this
it.
Level.
Not this level. This is 4-camera shot. A setup.
Yes. Hey, look right there. You can see the camera.
You can see one camera's on the side, and then I have another camera back there by the pillar, which is, again, it's minor because most people are like, we didn't even see the cameras.
Yes.
So this was, the bridesmaids weren't supposed to stand where they were standing, so here we're shooting through the bridesmaids. So once the wedding starts, Greg, you can't control everything. You can't control people. But they're walking through. You get a good shot. We're constantly switching. So we can pull back. We got when the bride and her father passed, my stepfather, he passed, or my father-in-law passed back in 2018. So her brother walked her down the aisle. And the thing that I didn't like, pastors, if you're watching this, don't do what this pastor does. He sits there and sways back and forth. I swear this was like, he acted like this was his first wedding. Because the whole message, he's sitting there swaying back and forth. I think this is the stillest he's been the whole service. So
he was getting his groove on. It's a wedding.
Yeah, well, he was getting his groove on, all right. And there the photographer or the videographer walks in front. See, there you can see he's going back and forth. He's just rocking back and forth. But this is the shot that people were actually blowing up and taking still clips of. because
Wow.
this is all they seen was the back of the head. So
Yeah, it's beautiful, man.
this is something that, again, you know, you could take mine as a starting point. We did a double box because we wanted to try it, but the pastor kept swaying. But it doesn't look bad. Like you get a nice view. He was standing still. He was supposed to have them positioned right, but everybody gets nervous during a wedding. Otherwise, that would have been a really good, 100% really good shot. But this was a good shot. And then I got a good one when they take communion. Let's see if I can get to it, where you guys get to see a little bit of that right here. This is what nobody's seen. All you've seen is the back of their heads. Most cases, you're seeing the bridesmaids, and my mother-in-law, as well as the groom's family, was like, "This is awesome!" Like they were actually taking clips of this and making this as pictures. So, I mean, I thought this was a really cool shot. So we've got a question in here. I'm going to pull this up. Do you think using gaffer's tape to mark their spots?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
So,
go ahead, Will.
I did. I put gaffer's tape on the stairs, and they pulled it off because my sister-in-law did not want it. She said that it's going to be, I was like, they're tiny X's. They were about like 1 inch by 1 inch. And they're like, we'll just know where to stand. I'm like, you don't understand. When the cameras are not moving and they're positioned just right, even the pastor, he kept moving over the gaffer's tape when I had it down on the floor. I had thought of that. I do it here in my studio, so that was the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I even used white gaffer's tape, right? So it's like the stuff that you would put on a audio mixer, right?
Yeah.
So you really wouldn't have seen it. And I used the gray cabling that Chris made for me that time, so that way I could hide the wires on that rug. You don't even see the wires. The DJ, although he used black wires, you see it everywhere. But yeah,
so basically you're doing a special event here, which in this case is a wedding. It could be anything that you would want to do in your church or outside, but what's important here is it's basically, of course, you've got a pretty good setup there with multiple cameras and the right equipment, good internet, but you're able to do a good job with a few people. It's crazy.
Just me and my daughter. And here's the other thing you got to take into consideration here. And the main aisle, the center aisle, you need to keep wires away from because obviously they're working. So the first thing I did when I went in there was assess where the cameras were going to go and how I could run the wires, because I have some 300-foot Ethernet cables. Everything was done over Ethernet, NDI, PoE. How was I going to get that back corner that you're seeing right there, the back left corner? How was I going to get a wire there without crossing that threshold of that center? So I literally had to run a 300-foot wire all the way around the church up behind the back side of that, tuck it in. So even in some cases, we were tucking it under the molding and running it down the outer aisles and working our way back. So we started with that camera in the very back on the left, then came up to the one on the stage, went to the other side of the stage, and then went down the right side, because the last thing you want, there's elderly people here. Some people had walkers, canes. The last thing you want is somebody tripping on that, whether it's a funeral or a wedding. I just want to preface that with this. That was, Greg, honestly, that was probably the toughest part of this, besides fighting the internet, was figuring out the wiring and making sure that it, obviously you don't want to see it. And then as soon as the wedding was over, my daughter and I just ripped everything out. Like we literally have to untangle everything yet, because they didn't want it in the pictures. And if you notice, I tried my best to keep the camera out of the view of the shots. And this, I'm proud of this, because I chased them in real time using the joystick. All these years of playing video games paid off. So I'm chasing them because they were just telling us we're going to do something special. I had no idea what they were going to do, and they did this. So this is a real-time chase with the joystick on their way out. And I'm like, I hope this works. So there was a lot of surprises
with
with
the
that.
Superjoy.
I did that with the Superjoy, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And, like I said, it was a real-time chase down the aisle, and we did the best we could. We even did it with the bridesmaids and the groomsmen as best as we could, because obviously they were just flying down the aisle. So we
Mhm.
were trying to do, I was trying to do this in real time. Um, the best that you possibly can, as if you had a camera operator. And I missed one couple because they were flying. I think they left a little too early right there. They were already gone. So I didn't even bother. I just kind of skipped and went right to the next couple. But
So, um, that's phenomenal work. But here's the question now that I bring to you. As we brainstorm now to help people grow their ministry in their church, what can you, if you can do that kind of setup for a wedding remotely and you traveled, what really can a local church do to, or house of worship or synagogue, whatever, house of worship do to broadcast special services even in their local area? You're basically limitless to what you can broadcast. You
yep.
can broadcast anything.
So I literally, the night before,
Mm-hmm.
put all this together. I drew it out on a whiteboard. My daughter was actually laughing because it looks like a little kid because on an iPad, I'm just using my finger, I'm drawing things out, and I'm like in my head going, it should work. Not even testing it. I'm literally plugging things in. I know my equipment. I
Right.
know it works. I know everything that I'm putting in this bag is going to work. So I drew it out. I knew what I needed to bring. I threw it in there. I literally got there. Everything worked, except we had that problem with the internet. So
Well,
we started, I mean, that was really low budget. The cameras were the most expensive. It was, I mean, if you have a laptop, and the live view, obviously, the internet. But if
mm-hmm.
you have a hotspot or what you did, right, you could take that with you.
I'm going to give it a shot this weekend with the stream, and we'll see what happens. I see Jeff in there. Jeff and High Def, my two favorite people. Always great show. Jeff, we appreciate you, buddy, always. And Ray from Indiana. So Stephen, here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I'm thinking. He's from Victory Temple Broadcast Team. Can you put that back up?
Sure.
That's cool right there, Ray. They've got probably their own Facebook login, I'm guessing, or YouTube login. Sorry.
Yeah.
Victory Temple Broadcast Team. That's super cool, and I did notice it there. So here's where I'm at, Stephen. I want to bring it to the house of worship now, and if you let me have this. This is from Relevant Magazine, but it's off of a Gallup poll. Less than 1/3 of Americans trust the church. This is a Gallup poll. This is July 12th, 2023. And it even comes down and does a year over year, from June to July of 21, 22, and 23. Everything is losing trust in society. So small business, the most trusted thing. This is an American poll. The military, the police from 51 to 43, medical system 44 to 34. But the one I want to look at here is the church, the fifth one down, 37 down to 32%. Did have a little tick up from 31 to 32. Regardless, the bottom line is 1/3 of Americans trust the institution of the church or religious organizations or houses of worship. I think that is probably very accurate. Now, what can we do as ministers and ministries and using technology to take that 1/3 number up? I'm going to tell you from a lot of experience now. Take your ministry outside of your four walls. For example, coming up in 3 weeks here at our local church, we do an event every year called Back to School Blessings, where we're giving away backpacks and school supplies. Next year, 2024, we are looking to take that to a huge event. Not only are we going to give away backpacks and school supplies, but we're going to give away shoes. We're going to bring barbers out, do free haircuts for the kids. bring a dentist out, do a tooth check, all of these things for kids in our community. And of course, when we're touching kids, we're going to touch parents. It's going to have a positive impact on the church. So how do we make that even better? We're going to stream it, of course. We're going to show the world what we're doing and use it as a tool to share the gospel message, which Jesus said the two greatest commandments are love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. So we're going to show that love. In early September, we have a volunteer event off campus at a camp. We're going to stream that. We have a water baptism off campus. We're going to stream that. It's minimal investment to be able to do that. Even if all the capability you have is to stream through your phone, do it. Get the message out, because we have to build the trust in the church and the gospel message, because it's been a tough, I guess we could call it pushing a decade. The last decade has been tough. And ever since COVID, it's been really tough. So we're doing the best we can to get the gospel message out. And I'm a full believer in special services and sharing the message. And that's the way you do it. Share the love of Christ and use this technology for our benefit.
I agree. You had asked earlier where the church was. It's at the Whitestone Inn. That's what it's called.
Okay.
The Whitestone Inn. So if anybody's interested in checking it out,
so you're up on top of the mountain there.
You are literally in the middle of nowhere. I'm not kidding when I say that. You are in the middle of nowhere.
Beautiful.
But it's a very nice location. I'm trying to see if there's a better picture of the church on the top of the hill. Yeah, they have the gazebo that's right outside of where the church is. Their website's not too intuitive.
But that shows you what can be done through mobile.
Yes, 100%. And that's why I'm not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater. Just know that there's going to be some limitations. And again, with you doing this as your home internet, I kind of think of people that use dish internet, right? Or dish TV, right? So anytime a snowstorm comes, they have to go out and clean off their dish, or they don't get it during a certain storm. I don't know, man. For me, I need more reliability at home, even though the speeds are great.
Disagree.
I
do not disagree. Let me have the screen back again here.
Okay.
And I'll go to this. So you're talking about rural. I'm talking about the event we're going to be doing in early September, and we're going to stream it all. So folks, this is the general region where Stephen and I live. This is the state line between Pennsylvania and Ohio. We're up here in this northern region. My hometown's actually here in the Greenville area, but you can see just small rural towns. Where are we actually doing the outdoor volunteer event? It's going to be at our campground. You come way down this road out here in the middle of farmland, and this place right here, this is actually our campground, River of Life Campground. There's no broadband, there's nothing, but on top of that hill, we're 5G ultra wide smoking. So we're going to give it a shot. We're going to have 400 or 500 people out there, and we're going to stream it in the middle, literally, of nowhere. So all things are possible. That's what I'm going to say. You just have to kind of go for it and use it, because only a third of folks trust the church right now and houses of worship. We need to share the gospel in unique ways and other ways than I don't want to get preaching now, but listen, other ways than
in the four walls.
A welcome, 2 hymns,
yep,
a sermon, take the offering, closing prayer.
Yep.
All needed, 100%, no problem. But if that's all we are, we're much more than that. God's called us to be much more than that, and we need to share it with the world.
So, what I want to do here is I want to show you something, you guys here. Greg's talking about this, especially if you run into problems with broadband and whatnot. I actually was doing something with a church locally here that was buying a PTZOptics camera, right? And they are in an old church building, like built in the 1800s. Now they've remodeled it. There's certain parts of the sanctuary that is brand new, but they've got those old 3-foot, we always joke about it, the 3-foot thick brick walls, from the old bones.
Mm-hmm.
The pastor asked me, he says, this networking company was like, we're going to have to charge you, $10,000 because we're going to have to run Ethernet through your concrete and everything like that. And we got to dig down. And I looked at him. I was like, what? He goes, yeah. He goes, do you have a suggestion? I said, yes, absolutely. And I'm going to tell you guys this. This is what I use, and I'll swear by these things. And I know our head of IT, these TP links, our head of IT, Matt Davis, will also swear by these. These things here, you plug them into your outlet. You can also get your outlet back. And then it has an Ethernet port on here. You get 2 of these. And some of them you can piggyback like 2 or 3 together. I use this with my kids in their room as well. You take this, you plug it in next to your switch, your network switch, and run this into your switch. Then you take one of these, like let's say my kids' room upstairs, or you're a house of worship. You're running it to a different floor in your building. Plug it in your kitchen, and you want to get internet. You run it out of here into a switch there, and then you can run it across the floor or an office building. These things use the electricity cabling that's in your home or your church as wiring. Okay. And these things work phenomenally, and they're $60 for 2. So what would you rather pay? $10,000 to dig up your concrete, or get a couple of these? Like I said, I use them here in the house, Greg, and for the kids.
Put a link to that in the chat?
Yeah, let me see if I can pull one up on Amazon. I got them on Amazon. So, and it's not an affiliate link. I don't do that stuff, but I'll pull it up here. So you guys can check that out. So if you're a house of worship and you're looking for something, like you have an old building, and there's nothing wrong with having an old building, but you need something like that. Oh, Will's asking that too. Can you put a link in the chat?
Yeah, but
yes,
think about having a little mobile setup where you're going out somewhere and you need are you basically saying that's an extender?
Yes. It's basically like running an Ethernet cable over power. That's the best way I can explain it.
So, one of the things you want to be if you're trying to be mobile and do special events is portable.
Yes.
Small, compact. Like now.
Wait. Sorry, not to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
Remember I said these were $60?
Yeah.
$49.99. $49, and I'm going to post this link in the chat room. $50, Greg. $50, and you have yourself a means to have a wireless. Well, I should say it's not wireless because you're using the built-in connection in your your home or your building or whatever you're using. I posted a link in the chat room there, guys, so you should have access to it. Like I said, it's not an affiliate link, but you guys can pull it up. But I'm telling you what, man, and here's the best part about it, right? So you're sitting there and you're going, how tech savvy do I need to be to do this? Literally, you plug it in. There is a button on the bottom that says pair. You press that button. I believe you hold it for a couple seconds, but read the manual. You hold it for let's say you hold it for a few seconds, I believe. These lights, the 2 lights will start going, and the third one flashes. And it'll flash until you plug the other side into whatever you're doing. So in my son's case, he's got a bunch of like Xbox, PlayStation, Switch. We hardwired them. So I literally take this, plug it into his wall. I come out of it into a network switch, an actual switch.
And then from that into his
devices. It goes into all those devices. So he's hardwired to everything. And I showed the speed. He's getting the ping time, as you know, with playing certain games. Ping time is huge. On wireless, he was getting like 80 to 100 millisecond ping on wireless. wired, I'm getting 15 millisecond ping going to my actual network without that. He's getting 20 millisecond.
Is this basically an alternative to like
An
Google
Ethernet
Nest?
cable. No. This is an alternative to an Ethernet cable. So, like, if you don't want to run it through your floorboards and do all this other stuff,
So basically,
your
it's giving
building.
you the capability to hardwire your systems.
100%. So, if you're in an old church building that you don't want to drill holes through that, the gorgeous artwork or gorgeous wood that you have, this is your solution. $60.
Matt came up with that.
$50. Well, I told him I was going to get some, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I've been using these for years." He's like, "These are great."
Oh,
so
how come he hasn't told us earlier?
Because I guess neither of us thought about it.
Matt, pick it up, dude. You could have saved me headache. A lot of headache.
Matt's the one that helped me work with the network. Maybe we'll have to get him on to talk about networking a little bit here for
to talk
this
about
audience.
networking, because this is important.
This is huge, and maybe he'll reiterate this. Could a Wi-Fi adapter be added for home use?
Go ahead.
So Will's asking a question here, so I want to pull that up here.
Okay.
He said, could a Wi-Fi adapter, so anything you could think of, like if you want to hook up this to, I know in some cases, I think you guys have it over at Greenville, you have those pods that strengthen the Wi-Fi, but it still needs to connect.
Yes, we have a ubiquity system.
It still needs to connect to Ethernet at some part. You could literally plug this in the wall and run a 3-foot cable to a Wi-Fi extender. And I use this in my home. So we have used this in the church for one of the arcades that we have is Ethernet powered. So rather than run a wire, we just plug this sucker in and we did it that way. It's just so much easier. And unless you're doing mission critical things, and when I say mission critical, where
life or death. Literally.
Yeah, or like let's just say the mileage will vary, and I want to put this out there because I don't want people to go, well, my electric system in my church has been in here since the 1800s. That could affect the quality of the signal that you're receiving. So I don't want to put any false expectations out there. But if you're in a building and the wiring system is pretty decent, you should have pretty decent results with this. So if you have a home that was built in the early 1900s that's using old wire, your mileage may vary.
Tube.
Yeah, you may vary, but it's worth a try. $50. You don't like it, if it's not working the way you want, send it back.
Holy moly!
So this is my little tip of the day. Okay, I thought it would be worth bringing up because, like I said, I use these. My brother bought them for his house when I told him about it, and he's got a fairly old, I think it was built in the 1920s, old house, and it's changed his setup as well. So it's worth looking into. But maybe I'll talk to Matt and see if he's got some time to come on.
Yeah, that would be cool.
To talk specifically about networking and how you guys can do networks better. He could walk through how a network should be set up within the church.
How to help, because most houses of worship are not new buildings.
Exactly.
They've been around a while, and technology is going way beyond use case for when a building was built in the 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s. So yeah, everybody has a problem with that. So it'd be a big help for houses of worship on Assault Talk.
But yeah, I thought this was kind of cool. I've only been using these probably about 6 months.
Okay.
But again, with my son, when he was up on so technically the basement's not really considered a floor, but if you think about it, you have your main living floor, you have the basement, which is where my modem and router is, and then he's up on the second floor, which technically there's 3 floors. I literally unplugged him, moved it down to his new room on the main living floor, plugged it in, it was working. I didn't have to do any kind of reconfiguring or anything. I just literally plug it in. Robert Reynolds has a question here. Let's pull that up. I'll be honest, Robert, I haven't tried it for PTZ camera. Let me get back to you on that.
PoE.
I don't know if it does. I would think it may, because you plug it into a power outlet, so you're getting that extra power. But I could test it for you. How's that sound?
Yeah.
I will test it, and next month I will get back to you. I have heard, yeah, so that's the other thing. Okay, that's a great point to add to this. He says, I have heard that the extenders need to be on the same circuit. In a church,
That is correct.
these do have to be on the same circuit. So like in a house, everything is kind of on the same circuit. So if you have two buildings, let's preface it like this. You have two buildings, you can't take one of these unless it's on the same circuit, put it in one building, and then go into your main sanctuary office where it is and plug it in. This is mainly, and maybe I should be clear about this. This is mainly if you are set up in your office, Greg, at the church, and in the basement, you want to get some internet to the youth room that's down there with the basketball court or whatever. That would be the way to do this. Okay, so growing in church worship technical skills says most of them will not send PoE. Well, there's your answer. I've never tried it with that. I literally just plug it into a switch and call it a day. But that's definitely that's good to know. But I might test it anyways. What harm could it do, right? See if it powers.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if they're PoE myself.
But you could go into a PoE switch.
Yes, you can.
So what I would do is I would come out of this, go into a PoE switch. It's just as cheap. I mean, I know what Cludford, I know what he's thinking. He's thinking like, man, I could just go out there, just plug these in and call it a day. But this is going off of
well, TP-Link also has a PoE 200 power over Ethernet adapter kit.
So there you go.
If it was like critical and you wanted to use these in your church for mobile placement of cameras, you can add this joker right here.
Oh, let me go to you full screen here. There you go.
So I'm sure there are possibilities, to get a little creative.
Well, he goes on to say here, Greg, we're using it for broadcast. We were using it for a broadcast outside and had to run extensions to get it the same circuit. So if it's not on the same circuit, that's where you're going to run into a problem. But if the outside outlet is the same circuit as what's inside, you could literally plug it in outside, plug it to a switch outside, and then run your cameras into that. Let me pull this up because this is great information, so you guys have this. There are PoE modules to add power, cheap single units. That's basically what I think what Greg was showing.
That's what I was just showing, yeah.
And there is a PoE version that I believe Will is putting up here. Let me pull this up. If I know some of you guys aren't on Facebook. I don't know why it's not showing up. There it is. So let me pull this up here real quick, Greg, so we can take a look at this. He pulled this down. He pulled these up. These are the PoE versions of it. So if you guys, stupid pop-up things. So if you guys want to write it down, these would work. That's what he was putting out. So these are more expensive. Obviously, PoE is more expensive. This is $90, but if that's what you need, $90 is a drop in a hat when you're getting quoted for $10,000 to dig up your foundation and run Ethernet cable.
So, Stephen, technically, would this have allowed you not back to the wedding? Not need the necessity to run cable?
So that's yes. So depending. But here's the thing. I don't know how the church is wired, right? Let's assume it's all on the same network.
Theoretically, it's possible.
Theoretically, there was a plug at every location that I put that camera. I could have literally took a 6-foot Ethernet cable, plugged this into the wall, and ran it up to without running cabling all over the floor. And this is something I did think about because for remote productions, think about you guys when you do outside bands and stuff, when you're doing your worship in the park and different things like that. You could literally get something like this, hook it to a switch, instead of running 30 or 40 cables to your stage. You just plug one with a switch and have that almost like the way your Behringer X32 Snake works, right?
Correct. That's right.
You could essentially do that with this.
Very similar principle there.
So
think about this. Just think about this. I'm gonna give you image here in my studio.
Okay.
So I'm testing this new camera from PTZOptics, the Studio Pro. They have sent me, very thankful, and I've put out an update on it already, a YouTube video on it. It's phenomenal. So I'm thinking of portability. No, it's not PTZ, it's not pan tilt zoom, but it's an incredible camera here. I'll give you that right there.
Oh, there you go.
So it's the size of my hand. Here it is. Built-in light, PoE, built-in microphone. Sorry, that's some of my stuff from my other stream.
I was going to say, you see how blind he is? He has to have a 32-inch screen in front of him for program
but
preview.
The point being here, the point being, dude, you literally could have a small suitcase, a couple of cameras, your connection to the internet, PoE, and you're rolling, man. It's the ticket. So that's the Studio Pro. It's phenomenal. I've been testing it for a couple of weeks, and it's still sitting there.
I literally had a rolling.
By the way,
I had a rolling bag.
By the way, I will go ahead and tell on myself, and for all of you guys out there that are in the media ministry for your church, let's show how this really works here. So if you notice, I've went with the very high dollar,
the
cardboard
yes,
leveling system.
And I know where that cardboard came from. That top cardboard came from his PTZOptics Move SE box.
It did.
Aha! See?
I'm using it as a leveler.
He's using it
and
as
then,
a leveler.
Look, it says record. So every time I'm streaming, I know I've got to hit the record button that's on my stream deck. So, folks, whatever you got to do, this is just a little thing here that hopefully encourages you that we're all normal.
But you were saying about taking small things. I literally had the size of a pull behind luggage container that I put all the it's from Think Tank Photo. So they have compartments in there that you can Velcro. So I put all my PTZ cameras in there so they're compartmentized, so they're not banging around and slamming into each other. They're padded. All my cabling went in what looked like a duffel bag, with my tripods. And then I had a backpack that had my camera, my laptop, the little YOLO box, the Super Joy, and the X keys. I could get on a plane with that, Greg. Like literally just get right on. And that was what I was trying to do, because I literally drove all day Friday, was there for the wedding on Saturday, and drove all the way home Sunday. And I did not want to take a rolling cart. That's what I did not want to do. So there's another comment here. Let's pull this up.
Yeah, he's exactly right. The point-to-point units.
He says there's also a great point-to-point network unit that works well to place cameras remotely. Great for temporary setups. Yes. So that's something, again, for me, it was last minute. I didn't have the time to buy certain things. It was like literally throw it in a bag the day before and be on the road. So if you have the time to plan this out, there's a lot of guys in here throwing great ideas out there. Do your research ahead of time. You might save yourself a lot of headache with coiling wires out there. If you can find out from the house of worship, like if you're doing an outside venue. I know harvest parties, a lot of times, a lot of churches are doing harvest in synagogues. And in fact, we were just at a carnival there was a Catholic church that's right down the road. They had a carnival going on with a live band. Like, what if you're hired to go in there to do, to stream that live band, right? If you got the time to prep, hey, is this on the same network or the same circuit? Can I put this in here? If you have the time, you can do that.
And listen, you can even take it to the next step. Let's say you're not having to be so precise on. I can answer that question right there.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Go ahead, finish your thought, and then I'll let you.
So, let's say you're not having to be so precise. For example, you're not wanting to get that artistic view of the pastor and the people getting married, but you're on a stage event. It's an outdoor event, and you're by yourself. So I'm going to tell you right now, and this is not a commercial, but this is a PTZOptics program that we do to help houses of worship monthly. The Move 4K is an unstinking believable camera. I just did a review on that, a short on YouTube, and I was showing our church running on autopilot. We had nobody touching the X keys, nobody touching the vMix. I mean, they were there. I said, get out of the way and let it run by itself. And the pastor's preaching, and it's just clocking right along. So, yeah, a little bit of investment there. But if you're out and you really want to do stuff, and well, I don't have a guy to run the cameras or the Super Joy, man, set that thing up and let her rip away. So there's lots of options. Now, the question from Cludford, what about Starlink for rural productions? Cludford.
And he has a follow-up there.
Any experience with that? Is the upload consistent enough? So, you came to the right place, Cludford. Yes, sir. I have a Starlink. It's not in the United States. It's in Ukraine. So since the war began, for some of you guys that may not know, I actually have worked in Ukraine for 26 years. I speak Russian fluently, and I do updates supporting Ukraine, supporting churches, supporting civilians, supporting military. And I've actually spent 5 months on the front lines live streaming. There it is, youtube.com, Greg Terry Experience. I have a live stream tonight updates. So when we're on the front lines and I'm talking, the bombs are dropping. Yes, we have streamed from a war zone through Starlink, smoking. Beautiful. So I can answer that from firsthand experience. Starlink works.
Awesome.
We were getting on average in a war zone 50 to 60 down and about 18 up.
Now, was that the plan that he had, or was that the maximum you could get?
That's just what we're in a war zone. But
I'm just curious because I figured
more than ample to stream. As long as you're getting and you're not overtaxing it, you're over 10 up, you're going to stream okay. Of course, how you set up your stream, but Starlink, I have nothing but good things to say about that. It saved our bacon quite a few times.
And he was saying about cloud cover lightning storms. So again, this is a hit or miss subject because Greg and I have never seen it affect cellular like that. And so you would think in a war zone, that's the maximum as you could possibly get. I've never had cellular signal be disrupted from a storm like that. But again, I was on top of a hill, there was elements outside of my control. I've been in locations that are like a tin box, right? And you don't get good cellular signal. So
I can tell you this. I'm going to.
Did you have storms over there that it was working through the storm?
No problem.
Okay.
Cludford, if I can answer the question, and I know we're getting close to our end time here. Are you in America?
Yeah, that's another good question because
are you in America?
It all depends on the infrastructure.
There's a reason I'm going to say that, and it's going to be opposite of what you expect. So, I'm in the front lines of the war in Ukraine. HIMARS are going out. Incoming's coming in. We're in a basement bunker, and I'm on 5G smoking. A month ago, I'm in the middle of Africa, in the middle of a remote park, doing ministry, 5G, smoking. I'm just going to tell you from my personal experience, America is just catching up. Okay, that's what I thought. Cludford, Jamaica. So cool. If your coverage is good there, so Jamaica, you're going to have a good look at the South Sky. You should be really good with Starlink. But I can tell you, I don't know the cellular in Jamaica, but I can tell you in Europe and even in a war zone in Ukraine or in the middle of Africa, I honestly get better cellular coverage in foreign countries than I do in America. Personal experience. It's amazing. So I'm a proponent of this new wave of cellular Starlink. It's not HughesNet, guys. HughesNet is trash. Am I allowed to say that on Assault Talk?
Yeah, you could say it because listen, it's our opinion. It's not
Okay.
like we're bashing the
4G.
company. It's
So
just,
if you're on the LTE, you should be okay. I once had problems with a provider in southern Kansas powering off systems during storms to protect them from damage. And I know you're out there in Kansas where the storms roll. Here's what I can tell you. And little inside information, guys. A little bit of inside. I have a friend that owns a rural broadband internet company. My buddy who I trained up has been working with him now for a year or so, maybe longer. And they're out there beaming internet, all this high-tech crazy stuff, like line of sight stuff, the dish, all off cellular in rural areas. And he point blank told me yesterday, he says, listen, don't listen to what you're reading or hearing. This is the wave of the future. It's here now. Get in here now. Even the cell towers, the one I'm catching my T-Mobile signal off that I'm streaming with right now. I'm not on broadband. I'm on cellular right now testing. He says, Greg, even it would take such a disaster to take that thing down now because the world is connected cellularly. Power out, backup generators kick in. If one of the nodes go out, bam, backup is already there. There's many redundancies, and they're building these things out for redundancy because more people are switching to them. So right now, it's early. People, I'm 50 years old. We do not often want to try other things, but I've been streaming with you for an hour, Steven, all cellular.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea. I mean, like, so obviously we talked about some of the cons, but the pros with that is if a wire gets taken down due to a storm for cable
You're in
internet,
trouble.
you might be out of internet for a week. Once your power's back, let's say they get the power back on, in an hour or two, with a cellular unit like you have, you've got internet. You're back up and going.
And you think here's another food for thought for you. I'm paying Spectrum for, 400 down or 500 down and 30 up, 20 up, whatever it is. And for weeks, I was getting no more than about 25 down and 3 up. And I'm calling them. They're saying, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong.
They always say
We
that.
sent out a service guy. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. I said, come in my house. Speed test this. He goes, yeah, there's something wrong. It took them a month, Steven. And you want to know where the problem was?
At the pole.
2 streets over.
Yep. I was just going to say, probably a node at the pole.
On a connector. A one little piece thing was messing me up 2 blocks away. They found it. They fixed it.
And I bet you they didn't give you a refund for those 2 months either.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's interesting, guys. I mean, no matter how much, I think the bottom line here is no matter how much you prepare or you think you've prepared, sometimes things are out of your control. Just like we were saying about the internet when I was there. I was so prepared for this because this is not my first rodeo. I've done 4 camera shoots. In fact, I'm going to Cleveland in September for a gaming expo. I'm being brought in as a guest, and then the following weekend I'm in Pittsburgh doing the same exact thing as a guest. So I'm literally taking a mobile studio that I've been building, and I'll have to do a video on it so you guys can see it.
Nice.
But I can only plan so much. I don't have control over everything, and so the only thing I can tell you guys is, and I think Greg would be in agreement with this, is plan for the things that you have control over. And then let the chips fall where they may, because you don't have control over the venue. You don't have control over the electricity, the internet at the venue. Just do whatever you can. If you have the items that you can bring as backup, bring it. If you're going in to do a special service in a park, do your due diligence. Plan it out. It's okay to start. I've been planning this September thing, Greg knows, for almost 8 months. I've been putting together my mobile rig and looking at the things that I modified with it. So I don't wait till the last minute. I am not one of those when it comes to broadcasting. There's too many things that can go wrong.
I'm gonna give you one more view here, Steve.
Yep.
Not yet.
And then we're gonna wrap it up.
I'll send it. Yeah, I'll send it to you.
No. So guys, while he's doing that, if you're interested and you want me to see if I can get Matt Davis to come on to talk about networking, put it in the comments below or put it in the chat room. If you would find, somebody teaching you a little bit on networking that actually does this for a living. I know enough to be dangerous. I can regurgitate stuff that he's told me, but if that's something you think you'd find helpful, put it in the chat room, put it in the comments below. If you're watching this on reruns, that helps us so we can kind of gauge where we want to go with this, because obviously we want to bring something to you guys that will help you, not hinder you, right?
Well, since we've been talking about it so much, let me show you, and this is not a commercial, it's just a test I'm doing. It would be the same for any company out there. We've grown in cellular tied into our church ubiquity to save us when one or the other goes down. We have ground. Yeah, we use ubiquity as well. So right here, next to my altar to Ronald Reagan, so let me.
There it is. That big brick.
PTZOptics cameras.
The big
Come
brick.
on, man.
Is that what that is? Is that the T-Mobile thing? The big brick.
That's it, guys. That's my T-Mobile unit.
Looks like an Xbox.
Sitting right there. I have connected it directly to my switch, and I'm running everything. My kid is gaming. My wife's watching TV. I'm streaming. I've had this since last night about 8 o'clock, and it's not a commercial. It's just a test to show you maybe possibilities. We're jumping into all this together. I'm going to give it some hard tests this weekend. I'm going to stream my stream tonight, 70 inputs, lots of HD video, reports from the front, remote callers. That's all I can do. But so far, so good. And this helps for special services, because you can have all the cameras in the world, but if you have no internet,
that's right,
you can just film yourself, record it. But
that's what we were doing.
Yeah. And this topic, kind of evolved today to really about mobile internet and how to do special services. But
yeah,
really good. Really good. I enjoyed this hour.
Absolutely. Guys, we really appreciate you guys tuning in. If you guys are interested in checking out what Greg's doing in the war in the Ukraine, you can check him out, youtube.com/GregTerryExperience. For all that, I mean, he also does some different product reviews when it comes to broadcasting equipment. You can check that out on his YouTube channel. And thank you again for joining
I might even preach you a sermon.
Hey, there you go.
I'm just messing.
You might.
I mean, I will, but I'm just
guys, appreciate it. We'll be back next month. And like I said, if that's something you want to have us do, talk about networking and get somebody, because obviously we got to bring the professional in. I'm not going to go there. Really appreciate all the comments that came in, for the suggestions. If you're watching this in rerun, make sure you watch the comments, because there's a lot of great suggestions. We pulled them up. If you're looking for a way to stream your services outside those four walls, there was a lot packed into this hour. We appreciate it. As always, we thank PTZOptics for allowing us to continue to do this, to help you guys in the House of Worship space. Until next time, guys, have a great week, and we'll see you next month.